Good evening, Rabbi. We were asked by one of our friends, is a husband required and obligated to object against a wife who doesn't dress with modesty, with tzniut? She doesn't wear the proper clothing, the proper head covering, all kinds of things like this. Is he obligated to object against her, or he just has to leave her alone and let her do whatever she wants? It's a free country. I do whatever I want. That was a question that was asked. So the answer is, Rabbi, we find in the Shulchan Aruch Ibn Ezer, Kuf Ein Chet Chaf Aleph. It says over there that a person is obligated. The Chachamim commanded every Jew that a person has to object and be jealous of his wife. What does that mean? That if he sees her doing something which is not sanua, which is not modest, the way she dresses, the way she behaves, and also other things as well, that she's not keeping the halacha, she's not keeping Jewish law, so he has an obligation to object against her and notify her that she's doing something wrong. This also applies, as it says in Shulchan Aruch there, to the family members as well. A person has to object also against his children, like regarding this, and regarding the family members as well. If he sees somebody in the family which is not behaving properly, who's not behaving properly, not dressing properly, not behaving properly according to the laws of modesty, according to morality, according to halakha, according to Jewish law, he has to object against them. But not only that, it says over there in the Shulchan Aruch that if a person doesn't do so, he doesn't object against his family members like this, and especially his wife, he's called a sinner, right? Why is that? Because he's not doing his job, right? He has to. That's his job as the leader of a family. He has to lead them in the proper way, in the way of the Torah. He has to object, and he has to direct them in the proper way. So if he doesn't do so, he's considered to be even a sinner, God forbid, right? But nevertheless, warns the Shulchan Aruch that even though the person is required and obligated to object against these things, and also not only that, it says in Shulchan Aruch from the Gemara in Masechet Sotah, it brings there that if a person does so, and he is jealous of his wife, and he objects against things that she's not doing properly, not dressing properly, not behaving properly, what happens is that they say that as a reward for this objection that he does, a spirit of purity passes over him, and he becomes more pure, more holy. So it also elevates him in the holiness as well. But nevertheless, Rabbi, it says over there in the Shulchan Aruch, it warns us that even though a person is obligated to do all these things as we mentioned, but nevertheless he should not do so with a bad spirit, with a bad attitude. What does that mean? To do it from anger, or to do it from causing some kind of a fight, or just do it as a joke, some kind of joking around, or just like casual conversation. Oh yeah, by the way, talking about some casual things, and all of a sudden he drops that in right away, right there. Shouldn't be like that. It also should not be with the intention to scare her as well, right? To give her fear. So what does that mean? That a person has to do so in a way which is serious, respectable, but not right overwhelming, and not not threatening. He has to be a nice attitude, right, a nice way, not to make a fight, not to make a scene, right, in public, all kinds of things like this. This is not the way to do it. So a person has to, on the one hand, he has to be jealous, he has to rebuke his family, his wife, his children, everything, but on the other hand, he has to do it in a nice way, which doesn't cause all kinds of issues and problems, because if you do it in a very harsh way, right, sometimes you get rejection, and you get just the opposite effect of what you thought you were going to get. So therefore, Rabbi, the truth is that we already know these principles in general, because the Torah commands us, right? Ocheach tochiach. What does that mean? That a person has to object against every Jew that he sees doing something wrong, right? He has to rebuke them. We have an obligation to rebuke the Jews who are not doing things properly. If a person doesn't do so, if he doesn't rebuke them for doing things improperly, they say, right, that he's also punished for that. He's also held accountable. If he had a opportunity to object and he did not do so, and they may have listened to him, there was a chance that they may listen. So if he didn't do so, he's considered to be accountable for that, and he's going to give a judgment for that as well. He gets punished as well. Not only that, they say further on, the rabbis, that if a person does the Gaon of Vilna brings down in his book Even Shlema, he says over there that if a person does object against his fellow man, and that person does not listen to him, right, he doesn't want to listen to him. So the truth is, right, the Chazal tell us that he's obligated to object many, many times, even 100 times, even 1,000 times, until that person is ready to hit him. Even if he's ready to hit him, so he can desist, he can stop there. But until that point, he still has to keep on objecting against him until he gets to the point of that he's going to get violent against this guy. That's the idea. And the truth is, right, the Chazal told us, Kol Israel Arabim Zeh Lazeh. What does that mean? That every Jew is obligated, right, responsible one for the other. So we have a responsibility towards our fellow Jews. If we see them doing something wrong, we have to object against them. Not to hide our head in the sand and close our eyes like we don't see nothing. Oh yeah, well, it's going to be embarrassing, it's going to make a scene, it's going to make this kind of thing, all kinds of things. A person shouldn't be scared of that. So as we said, the Gaon Vina comes and says that if a person objects against his fellow Jew, and actually that Jew listened to what he said, he heeded his advice, so he gets rewarded also for the fact that he fixed him up. He corrected his ways. He also gets rewarded. If he doesn't do so, he gets punished. But another thing also very interesting, so it says the Gaon Vina, that if a person objects against his fellow man, against his fellow Jew, and that person doesn't want to listen to him. So what happens is, right, that they do now a switch because of this. What does that mean? That person who objected and he was doing the L'Shem Shamayim for the sake of heaven, what they do is they give him the portion in Olam Haba, in the world to come, that person who didn't listen to him was supposed to get. So they switch, right? They give the person who objected the portion in Olam Haba for this person who doesn't want to listen, and the Gainam, right, the punishment that he was supposed to get in Olam Haba, that person who objected, right, is switched over to the person who doesn't want to listen. They switch over, right? They give the Gainam of this one to this one, and they give the Gan Eden of this one to this one, right? So we see from there that rebuking your fellow man, right, is considered to be one of the main principles in the Torah, and therefore a person has to be very, very careful about that. But all the more so, Rabbi, when it comes to your family members, when it comes to your wife especially, so there a person is very, very much obligated to do so even more. Why is that? Because he's the leader of the family. He's the one who's supposed to be, right, guiding everybody, and he's supposed to be the example. He's supposed to be, right, the spiritual, guru of the family, right, whatever, right, the leader. That's the idea. So therefore, Rabbi, a person has to be very careful about that. The truth is that a person has to keep doing this. Maran Rabbadia, Rabbeinu, he told us that even if a person sees his wife and she doesn't want to cover her hair, or she wants to put a wig only, not to put a real hair covering, she wants to put a fake covering, right? Fake news. She wants to put one of those fake wigs on, like it's covering your hair with hair, right? So he told us, Maran Rabbadia Shalom, he told us that even in a situation like that, a person should tell his wife, right, once in a while, and rebuke her for that until he can convince her totally to get rid of this, this wig, this sheitel, this peh nochrit, right, which is considered to be not according to halacha, according to the vast majority of the poskim. So therefore, Rabbatai, a person has to object about everything, about tzniut, about the way she dresses, about the way she covers her hair. And not only that, Rabbatai, a person also has to object regarding the issue of tzniut until the point that it says even in the Shulchan Aruch Ibn Ezer, Kuf Yud Tet Dalet, it says over there that if a person has a wife, she doesn't want to dress but tzniut, right? She doesn't, she wears like all kinds of immodest clothing, like mini skirts and all kinds of which are, these things can cause all kinds of problems, right? Can lead to all kinds of sinful things, adultery, God forbid, all kinds of things. So they say that if a person has a wife like that, it's even a mitzvah for him to divorce her. It can get to that too. It can get so far, right, that a person has to divorce his wife because of that. What does that mean? He should go first to a rabbi and discuss it in front of the rabbi, and then if she doesn't want to listen to the rabbi, they'll take her to a bet din, a court, right, Jewish court, and they should discuss it over there. If she doesn't want to listen over there, the truth is that it may come, God forbid, right, to a situation of divorce, because a person is obligated to divorce his wife who doesn't dress but mute. But all these things, Rabbi, have to be done with the direction of a competent rabbi, because these things sometimes have all kinds of nuances, all kinds of details that have to be weighed and discussed, and they have to be contemplated by somebody who was expert in Torah, expert in halakha. So therefore, if a person has a personal problem regarding these things, he should go to a rabbi, somebody who's competent in halakha, is knowledgeable, and he will guide him regarding these things, the proper way to behave and act. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us that we should all have a spirit of purity that passes upon us, because we're doing these things, as the Shulchan Aruch tells us, to be zealous and to be jealous of a person's wife and his family, and to guide them in the proper way. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen, Chazak u'Baruch.